Hello, everyone. Just so you know, before we get into this review, the movie that we're covering today covers some pretty serious topics, including pretty explicit tackling of mental health as well as issues related to suicide. So, for both the movie and the review to follow, viewer discretion is advised if those are topics that you are uncomfortable with or feel like you are unable to deal with. Viewer discretion advised. Hello and welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Media. I am your sometimes host, Emily, and today we are kicking off my slate of solo reviews for the Oscars with a review of Sentimental Value, the new film from Norwegian filmmaker Joachim Trier, who you may know from his previous work on movies like The Worst Person in the World, that is kind of sweeping the awards world by storm right now, and certainly deserves to be talked about. Sentimental Value is a movie that I did not know a lot about going in, only having heard the word of mouth about how excellent it was, so I really didn't know what to expect as someone who also wasn't super familiar with Joachim Trier's work up to this point prior to this movie. But having watched this film and having educated myself on Joachim Trier's previous works, I'm here to tell you that this movie is an absolute triumph by a filmmaker at the absolute height of his talent. Sentimental Value is one of those movies where if I live to see a movie that is similar to this, I will count myself supremely lucky. I already count myself lucky that I got to live to see this movie the first time. And I'm so excited to talk to you guys about it today, to talk about what it's about, why it's so great, and where I see it going when it comes to this year's awards season. To start off with sort of a brief, not super in-depth plot synopsis, Sentimental Value is a film that focuses on a Norwegian family who lives in Oslo. There are two adult daughters, they're sisters, I guess, more so than daughters in terms of the context of the movie, who have both grown up to live fairly independent adult lives, whose worlds are turned upside down when their estranged filmmaker father reappears in their life with a script in hand about his own life, where he is intending to cast one of his daughters as his own mother. And when his daughter turns down the role, he goes rogue and casts an American actress to play the role instead. Now, those of you who are a bit more cynical about the types of movies that we normally see in the awards circuit and at the Academy Awards themselves might think that this is going to be yet another movie that seems a little bit masturbatory or all over the place about the art of cinema or whatever else it is. But Sentimental Value isn't like that. That's not the kind of movie that it's trying to be. Instead, it's a movie that is about family. It's about relationships, and it's about how we look at the people in our lives and we evaluate their actions. Those of you who have listened to this show on a somewhat regular basis are probably aware of the fact that I, as a person who engages with movies, really enjoy misery. I like sadness. I think sad movies capture some of the most raw and sort of pathological feelings that we don't get to explore nearly as much in day-to-day life. But what I liked about Sentimental Value and why I think it's so brilliant is how it combines the sadness of the subject material without dealing a killing blow, so to speak. The movie never goes all the way into doing something really, really horrible or dour, but rather puts us in a sad situation and lets us see the light at the end of the tunnel. I could explain this further, but I think that there's a quote from the movie that really exemplifies a whole lot of what it's talking about. There's a scene in this movie where Renata Rinsve's character and Stellan Skarsgård's character, the daughter who is an actress and the father in the context of the movie, sit across from a dinner table after they've recently reunited with each other, saying very little. And Stellan Skarsgård's character says to his daughter, "It's difficult to love someone without mercy." And that moment, among other moments in the film, really told me a lot about the message that it was trying to send. That sometimes people do things, they hurt us, they screw up parts of our lives, and they deal damage that they can't take back. But if we love them, we have to have some kind of faith in them. Faith that their intentions aren't bad, or that maybe they're going through something, or that there are parts of people's lives that we don't see and we don't get to see. And that's what I liked about Sentimental Value. It would have been easy to make this yet another movie about a completely egotistical, self-destructive father who ruins the lives of some number of children, and those children have to deal with it in that sort of generational trauma way. And while this movie does dip into that territory, what I really like is the nuance and how it portrays the fact that he also went through things. As a human being, the reason that he did bad things to other people is because bad things have happened to him. And more so than the general generational trauma sort of narrative. The movie doesn't excuse it. The movie doesn't go out of its way to show that he's a good person, but what it does show is that every single one of us deserves mercy for our worst moments and our worst decisions. And it does that with an absolutely sweeping set of filmmaking talent across every single possible metric. From a technical standpoint, this movie is composed beautifully. It has fantastic music, and the way that every single scene looks is so crisp and satisfying and just absolutely fantastic. I loved the way that this movie looks, and I'm hoping that it receives some recognition, especially for a sequence that plays out at the very end of the movie that was pretty jaw-dropping to see in the theater. As well, this movie is held up by an absolute powerhouse of a cast, with Renata Rinsvay just totally stealing the show as the lead character, Nora, who is the older of the two daughters, who is an actress and is the one that their father asks to be in the film, which she declines. But as well, Inga Ibnsdottir plays the younger of the two sisters, who is a mother, and gets a lot of great material to work with as well. Stellan Skarsgård absolutely chews the hell out of this role as the father, bringing this incredible gravitas and weight to every single scene that he gets to be a part of, and playing off of every other cast member just utterly brilliantly. And we have Elle Fanning, who you may remember from such fantastic movies as Predator Badlands this year, putting in her all in a performance as the American actress that Stellan Skarsgård's character casts to replace his daughter in his film that he's trying to make. All four of these people sort of anchor the entirety of the movie. They are the center of the world that the movie is trying to tell us about. And something that I really like is that this is a movie that really goes out of its way to let you form your own conclusions about the characters. This is not a movie that tells you how to feel. Rather, it presents you with circumstances, it presents you with things about these characters, and lets you make what you will of them. And what that means is that by the end of the film, when we get to the really hard-hitting and emotionally difficult material that comes in the movie's third act, it feels earned. It feels earnest, because there is no direction on how we're supposed to feel. We are being exposed to these characters' real feelings and being told to make what we will of them. Some people will come out of this movie having some degree of judgment for Nora, which is a fair thing to feel. Nora makes decisions in this movie that aren't exactly stellar even by her own admission, but the things that we learn about her color them in a really interesting way and invite the audience to reconsider how we feel about and look at those things. And that's generally the point that the movie is trying to make. In addition to the excellent acting and a lot of the excellent technical factors, if you can't tell from my gushing about it, this movie's screenplay is basically unmatched. The writing from moment to moment is just so gorgeous and verbose and layered and beautiful. And for a movie that deals with subject matter as difficult as this one does, really funny at times. I maintain that one of the best jokes I've seen in a movie all year is a scene in this film in which Stellan Skarsgård's character attends an 11-year-old child's birthday party and as a gift gives him Irreversible and The Piano Teacher on DVD. The kid, who is very confused, then receives a lecture on what these films mean to cinema, and I was cracking up laughing in the theater. So ultimately, from across the entire spectrum of metrics by which to evaluate a film, it would be really difficult to find a movie this year that was better, to me at least, than Sentimental Value. It is a heartfelt, warm, and moving picture that, while it is sad, never goes all the way in its sadness. It's not a movie that I came out of feeling upset. It's a movie that I came out of feeling warm, feeling inspired, in a sense. And I think Joachim Trier has been working to make a movie like this for a very, very long time. We've seen Joachim Trier deal with a lot of similar issues to the ones that come up in this movie, namely issues about mental health, issues about suicide, things like that, that are sort of central topics that appear in this movie. And as I mentioned at the top of this review, if you happen to be a viewer who is sensitive to such things, I would advise being wary, because this movie not only tackles them, but tackles them pretty directly in a way that is not going to be super comfortable for everyone, but I think is very honest in a way that I appreciated. And because of a lot of that subject matter, it's difficult to make a perfect movie about it. And Joachim Trier's been trying. Joachim Trier has made a lot of movies that cover this same subject material, but with Sentimental Value, it feels like every single thing that he's done coming together to make something greater, like a magnum opus in the way that we would have thought about it for composers at the height of like classical music. This movie feels like a culmination of a career in making art of a specific type about a specific thing. And I just can't get over it. I haven't stopped thinking about this movie since I watched it. It's so poignant and moving. And before I move on to anything else about the film, I want to talk about one specific sequence that I think absolutely sold me on this movie, which is its opening. As I mentioned, when I sat down in the theater to watch this movie, I didn't really have any concept of what it was going to be about. I hadn't been told, other than I knew it was about a guy who makes a movie and is going to cast his daughter in it, but then doesn't. And the opening of this film, which I wish was available because I would be showing it to people all the time, is a monologue about a school assignment that Renata Rensvay's character, Nora, completed, where she was asked if she could be anything, what she would want to be. And she turns in this short essay about how she would choose to be her family's house. And through this essay that Nora wrote as a child, we are introduced to what will essentially wind up being the key players of the film. We learn about the relationship between Nora's parents. We learn about some of the trials and tribulations that they went through in Nora's childhood. And we get what is essentially a prologue to this story, all using the medium of this school assignment over shots of the house, which will wind up becoming sort of a narrative focal point throughout the rest of the movie. This sequence, even though it's only 5 minutes long, my jaw was dropped for the entirety of it. From the quality of the writing to the way that the whole thing is shot and set up, I have never been more immediately hooked on a movie that is a drama that by rights should have felt slow and plodding, but instead feels like every scene is just swelling and bursting with emotion. It's the kind of effect that you just aren't going to get in other movies, and it feels so special. Like watching someone who is truly a master at what they do the best possible version of the thing that they do. And if this movie sounds like something that you would enjoy, I promise you it delivers on the heights of what it could possibly achieve. Sentimental Value is my movie of the year. There's no two ways about it. It might be one of my favorite movies of all time. It's difficult to say, but ultimately, in the entire history of reviewing movies for $1 Million Media, I think that this movie carries my strongest recommendation. And that's saying a lot, but I stand by it. Now, this is the part of the video where I'm going to go ahead and talk about this movie's path to the Oscars. And granted, because this year has been as nuclear as it is, despite how excellent I found Sentimental Value to be, I think it probably has a challenging road in some categories ahead of it. Best Picture, as far as nominations go, is basically a lock. If Sentimental Value doesn't get nominated, it will be a huge upset that will go down in the history books of the Academy when it comes to Best Picture snubs, because what the hell. But when it comes to other categories, it might have a bit trickier of a time. The one category where I foresee this movie winning handily and unequivocally is original screenplay, where I don't think anything has the chops to keep up with the way that this movie is written. It is to the point where if this movie somehow loses original screenplay, it will reduce my faith in the Academy as an institution able to fairly evaluate writing as a whole. That being said, there are some other competitive nominees or likely nominees in the category. So if it does lose, it might lose to something good, but I doubt it will lose. And if it does lose, I will be very confused and shocked. Where it's going to have probably a lot of nominees, but might have a more difficult path to winning is in the acting categories. With Renata Rensvay for Best Lead Actress, Elle Fanning and Inga Ibensdottir for Best Supporting Actress, and Stellan Skarsgård for Best Supporting Actor. Well, I think Skarsgård is a really heavy hitter when it comes to supporting actor. That category is also just very tough this year, with performances like Paul Mescal in Hamnet, which we should have a review for coming out soon, as well as Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, as well as numerous other fantastic supporting performances that we've seen this year that are likely to make a splash when it comes to the Academy Award nominations. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised to see Skarsgård take home a win. I mean, he brings 110% to his role in this movie in a way that I was surprised by. I knew Stellan Skarsgård was a great actor, but you really see him hit the heights of what he can do in this film, and it is excellent. And I mean, like, earth-shatteringly moving. Lead actress is going to be a bit tougher of a road to victory because, well, I do think Renata Rensvay was excellent and is probably my personal choice for the best performance of the year. A difficult thing when it comes to awards is that Rensvay was just given a lot more subtle of a role compared to some of the other actors who are likely to be nominated for lead actress, and that may wind up being damaging to her chances at a win. Well, I think her performance was to me, better than someone like Jessie Buckley in Hamnet. I think Buckley in Hamnet got the opportunity to go a lot bigger and to be the centerpiece of big scenes a lot more, whereas the role of Nora in this film is a lot more subtle. It's a lot more restrained, and there's a lot more nuance and quietness to it, which is not always what the Academy winds up going for when it comes to acting performances. So, while I have hope for Rensvay's success in that category, like I said, she would be my personal choice to win. She is going to face a challenge among some of the other contemporaries in the lead actress category. When it comes to supporting actress, Sentimental Value may as well have this category on lock. One of Elle Fanning or Inga Ibnsdottir has been typically the winner at pretty much all of the precursors that have happened up to this point, and both of them turn in excellent performances, with a special note to Elle Fanning, who I have never seen act in the way that she acts in this movie in her entire career. She brought out a side of herself as a performer that I didn't know existed, and I am so excited to hopefully see more of. She eats every role in this movie in a fascinating way, because her character in this film, Rachel, is one of those characters that is meant to come off initially as a little bit more vapid. She's an American Hollywood celebrity. She doesn't speak Norwegian like most of the characters in the film do. She speaks English, so most of the scenes that she's in wind up being in English. But what Fanning captures, and what I was so impressed by, is how she takes this character of Rachel, who would, in a lesser movie, truly be vapid, and gives us a reason to believe why she was cast in the role that she gets cast in. She sells us on her value as a performer, because despite her bubbly personality and her sort of like the dumb American angle that she's shown in at the beginning of the film, we see her connect with this role throughout the film, throughout having been cast, and seeing her try to read for this part that wasn't intended for her, but that she wants to embody. We realize throughout the film that she cares, and not just that she cares, but that she's actually a good performer. She cares about the authenticity of the role, and we see her fighting tooth and nail to try to be an actress who is good enough to play a role that wasn't meant for her. And without giving away too much, the ultimate resolution of how that story goes down and the latter scenes that Fanning gets to do towards the end of Rachel's arc are groundbreaking. They are earth-moving scenes of performance that capture a nuance and a internality that I don't even think the movie began to scratch the surface of, but Fanning was clearly aware of from tip to tail. It's an incredible performance, and I think that she did excellent enough to potentially deserve a win in that category, but that would also be undermining Inga Ibnsdottir, who turns in a performance of equal weight, playing Nora's sister, who is a mother to a child, who has recently now had his grandfather reappear in his life, despite the fact that his mother, Inga Ibnsdottir's character, knows who he is. He was a deadbeat. He was estranged. He was gone, and now he's just reappeared and felt entitled to the love of his family. And as a mother to a young child, she doesn't really know how to feel about that. And we see that struggle portrayed through a really delicate and intricate performance that shows us a lot without having to tell it to us directly. And I think the struggles that character goes through and the way that Ibnsdottir captures them is just spectacular. So from an acting standpoint, I do think this movie has a big chance to be a puncher in all of the categories that it's nominated in, but the number of wins that it takes home may vary. Trier is also certainly in the running for the Best Director category. Again, I personally think that he deserves at least a nomination, if not a win. But when you're up against someone like Chloe Zhao, when you're up against several of the other people who have made really big movies this year, like Paul Thomas Anderson, it's just a tough category, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Joachim Trier go home empty-handed on that particular category. It's a similar case for cinematography. While I do think this movie is beautifully composed and shot, it's just a tough category. There are a lot of beautiful looking movies this year, and it would be unsurprising to see Sentimental Value not be a taker in that category. Where I do think Value is a little bit more likely to take home a win is in the Best International Feature Film category, although even that in a year as monumental as 2025 is extremely competitive, because Sentimental Value will be up against other likely Best Picture nominees like The Secret Agent and It Was Just an Accident, meaning that it's really anyone's game, but I do think Sentimental Value has a good shot on the strength of performance, as well as the fact that this is essentially cashing in on a filmmaker who has deserved his flowers from the Academy for a very long time now. It's difficult to evaluate whether or not this movie will win Best Picture. I really don't know, but I hope it does. I would be so happy if it did, but given that 2025 is the year that it is, I would also be happy with any number of other films taking home the trophy. So despite the fact that Sentimental Value is my favorite movie of the year, there are plenty of other movies that could wind up usurping it on the award circuit because this year is just that good. That's all I have to say about Sentimental Value. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this review before it gets too much longer than it already is. Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate your patronage and your listening across the year, especially as we sort of wrap up and move into 2026, which will hopefully be an even bigger year for Million Dollar Media than any of the years that have preceded it. I will go ahead and ask that if you enjoyed this video, you leave a like, leave a comment telling me that I care too much about sad Norwegians and should go watch Mission Impossible again. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos like this. Subscribe to our Patreon if you want Max to eat a nicer dinner tonight. And ultimately, keep watching movies and keep watching our videos. Thank you all very much.